Welcome back. So, we are here on the dev server. Awesome. Got all that to go away. So, let's check out what's new here. I guess we'll start in research first, and we'll go down the line. So, it looks like the only thing coming to the German tech tree so far is the Tiger H1. So, we're looking at very similar hull armor stats, but the turret armor looks to be a little bit different. This doesn't have a front armor on it, so I assume it's going to be 102. On this one, it's 182, 82, 80. On this one, it honestly, I wonder if it's complete, because it has no front value. It's 82 on the side, 5 on the back, just does not sound right, and the top is 26, which is a pretty big deviation from the E. As far as the engines, they look pretty much the same, and their weight looks about the same. For the most part, it looks like we're just getting another Tiger one, which I'm not sure how much value that's actually going to have. Right now, you can already pair it with Panthers, or you have the later Tigers. And given that this is folded, I feel like more often than not at BR5, you're going to be better off just going for one of the other Tigers, since they have a better gun, and for the most part, they have better armor. The frontal turret armor on the Tiger 2P is a little bit iffy, but I think I'd still rather have a Tiger 2P than a Tiger H1. Let's look at Japan. So I think everything that they're getting is coming at the end of their tree, which looks to be the case. They're getting their BR5. I really do want to check out this Hiei automatic rifle. So it's got a 30-round magazine, 3.1 second reload time, which really isn't terrible for how big that magazine is. Auto, semi-auto, 4.9 kilos, 5725. Sounds a little bit rough, but you're definitely going to want vertical recoil reduction. Ideally, I would also want horizontal, but I know that that's not realistic, so I'm probably just going to go full vertical and accept that the horizontal is going to be kind of iffy. And 400 rounds a minute isn't a ton, so that might make it more manageable. It's probably going to be close to 450 when you fully upgrade it. So, not the highest fire rate in the world, but not bad. And then we have the Type 100, which is literally 2 machine guns strapped together. Let's see, what's the reload? 5.7, it's actually a lot faster than I expected. I wonder if you just need to yank on one of the charging handles. I was curious if they were going to be linked together in some way, so you'd only have to pull it from one side. But 5.7 for a gun this hefty isn't terrible. 16 kilos. It actually has semi-auto, which is kind of interesting. It says that it is a 50-round magazine, but as I understand from the dev post, each half of this is 50 rounds for a total of 100, but since they shoot at the same time, effectively 50 rounds. We're really going to have to tab fire it though. 600 rounds a minute, those can be really manageable, going up to like 660. With 32 by 19 recoil, it's probably going to be pretty decent. 19's still a little bit higher horizontal than I would like, but it's a machine gun, so you can mount it. 32 isn't terrible for its vertical. It's not great, but it's not terrible. I'm curious how bad it's going to feel carrying it around, though. Using the Maxim Tokarev, not only does it shoot in circles, but it also is very cumbersome and slow to get around with. I have a feeling that the Type 96 and the Type 99 are probably going to be superior for most just average use, but there are probably some scenarios where the Type 100 will be superior. And then looking at the Ho-Ri, 120 on the front of the hull and 225 on the front of the turret, it's actually going to be pretty tanky. Now the new American tank should be able to get through this, but we'll see. 225 on the front of the turret is pretty good though, but APCR with that being flat should go right through it. APCR should struggle with the front of the hull though since it's angled. But we'll see. I wish that we could get stats for the reload time on it, but unfortunately we cannot. What about speed? 40 kilometers an hour with... Do we have horsepower on here? 935 at 1500. Yeah, so I'm trying to think about how mobile it is in War Thunder. It can get around, and once it gets up to speed, it's alright, but there aren't going to be as many straightaways to get up to speed on the Pacific maps, and the terrain's going to be pretty rough. The only real concern I have is with how long this is and how many hills and dips there are, whether you're going to be able to find a stable place to shoot from, and whether you're going to be able to get up and down the hills. But we'll see. It looks promising. It's certainly going to be able to deal with everything the Americans throw at it. And let's look at the Key 84. So we have our two 250 kilo bombs, which is awesome. Let's see. 14.97 turn time. This thing's going to be a monster. I mentioned in the dev post for it, but if you throw the Key 61 and the Key 84 on a lineup together, they're going to be terrifying. And if you really wanted to just go all out for air power, these last four planes here, and if you really wanted to throw in a fifth one, I guess you could throw the B5 on, would be devastating. Because you have a 500 kilo bomb here. This is an attack plane. You have two 250 kilos here, but you have no, like, offensive armament. You just have the turret on the back, and they drop together. And that's another attack plane. But all three of these are fighters, and the Key 61 with its 100 kilo bombs already does very well, and it's an excellent fighter. The Key 84 should be just as good, if not better, at being a fighter, and it's bringing heavier bombs, so it's going to be even more devastating. And then if you wanted to bring just a dedicated air superiority platform, the J2M3 is there. And it looks like it's turning a little bit worse, but the armament's a little bit heavier, but the little bombs on it are probably irrelevant. Still, though, as a fighter lineup, as long as you can bring enough air crews, running these three planes together would be nasty, just to rotate through all of them. I suppose if you couldn't do that and you're somebody who had the premium Key 61, this would make a good insert into that. And actually, if it were me, if I had that, I'd probably, ideally, if I could put them all on different air crews, I'd want to bring the Key 84, the Key 61-2, and the Key 61-1. Moving on to America, let's see. So far, nothing early. Last update, they had a decent spread of things that were early and late. Right now, they don't actually have a ton in this update in general, but all the things that they have are pretty concentrated around BR5. And so we have the Pershing here. It's got the 90 mil. It's supposed to be getting APCR. 102 mils of armor on the front of the turret and the front of the hull, so it's still going to get holes poked in it by just about everything that it sees. But with the gun, it should also be able to deal with anything that it sees, assuming that you get a piece of it that's relatively flat. So that'll be good for American tankers. It's going to be a beast of a tank, and having 90 mil and a decently armored chassis should be decent for taking out infantry as well. Admittedly, I don't think it's going to be the cure-all that American players are really looking for, but it is certainly a step in the right direction. And we still haven't actually heard anything about what's going on with the super Pershing, so remains to be seen whether or not it'll end up being in the tech tree in this update, whether it'll be a premium, or whether it will be in the next update after this. Who knows? I do hope that they announce something else for all of these nations, because right now there's really not a whole lot coming in this update. And let's see, with Russia, I don't think they're getting, oh right, they're getting the M1 bazooka, so they are getting a little something early here. To be honest, I don't know how much of an upgrade it is over the PTRS. It is a projectile launcher, and I do think that makes it easier to use, because you don't have to hit individual crew members, and you still need to kind of hit components. It does have more pen, though. It should have 60 mils of pen, so it is a 20 mil pickup, and it shouldn't lose pen over distance because it's a chemical warhead. The PTRS, though, if you can just get the side of a tank, it's really easy to just semi-auto pop, 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 pop right into the side of it. So, it's two different ways to accomplish the same thing. The M1 bazooka is probably going to be better, but you can do a lot of burst damage with a PTRS if you know where people are in the tank, and just fire like 2 rounds through the driver and a couple rounds through the side of the tank to get the turret crew, or the ammo, or whatever. It's a good addition, though. Especially at BR2. Let's see, we have the KV-1 ZIS-5, which it's going to be a BR higher. It is getting better turret armor, but that's about it. And technically it has a better gun. The thing is, I feel like it's still, in my opinion, a short 76, but having a short 76 at BR4 is going to be very difficult. I'm sure that you'll see a lot of people from BR3 that are brought up to BR4 that have mostly BR2 and 3 lineups that are still progressing through, so it may prove to be a little bit of a puppy kicker. But as far as dealing with proper BR4 and 5 tanks, I think it's going to largely be incapable. And the thing is, even though the turret armor is better, the turret on the KV-1 is not a huge part of the tank, and more often than not, they're just going to shoot you in the front of the tank, where it's still the same thickness, and go right through. And you're also not becoming any more mobile, so I don't know. I feel like it would have been okay to put it at BR3 with the other KV-1 and just folder them together. I don't really feel like it's a substantial improvement. I think that that's all that Russia's getting. I know that they announced that American half-track, so I want to go back and look at that. Oh, and there's the premium tanks. We'll take a look at those here in a second. So let's start with this one. So this is going to be an amphibious APC squad. It's going to be the first of its kind. It actually is listed here in having all of its machine guns. So we've got 2 50 cals on the roof, 2 30 cals behind them, and a coaxial 30 cal in the front. Let's see. The squad should be the same as pretty much every other APC squad, which is to say that they should be pretty high value. So, by default, it comes with 2 assaulters, a machine gunner, an AT soldier, and a radio operator, and the driver. You should be able to swap out 1 machine gunner for one of the other positions. Usually I drop the radio operator for the extra machine gunner. And, let's see, I only fire one of them from this position. So they're there, but you might have to rely on the AI to shoot them. Let's see if the driver can fire the front one, Guess not.
Calling in
Let's see.
artillery.
Okay, so position 7 is gunner. Position 8 is also a gunner. And you can drive from here, so that's good. I feel like they should move the gunner positions higher on the list. 'Cause right now, if you look at the side over here, you have gunner, driver, and then all of these are passenger positions, and then 7 and 8 are gunners, and 9 is a gunner, and I think that's kind of awkward. But let's see how mobile we are. I don't think that there's a good, like, water area for us to drive through, but I imagine this is going to be about as mobile as the other Pacific squad. So there's a tank version of this same vehicle that essentially has a Stuart cannon on it. This thing's not very quick, but its ability to go in the water is probably going to be where most of its value comes from. And I can see on some of the Pacific maps positions, or I can envision positions where you might want to park one of these in the water and spawn squads a little bit offshore and have them just swim in. I mean, that's not great for the AI, because the AI kind of suck when it comes to crossing water. But it also means that it's not going to be the easiest thing to take out. Obviously, if you've got another tank with a tank gun, or you build an AT gun, it'll be pretty easy to take it out. But because it'll be out in the water, it's not like you can just swim out there and throw an explosive pack on there. I mean, you might be able to, but you'd probably have to swim out and climb on top of it. I'm pretty sure you can't use... I might be wrong. I don't really spend that much time swimming around in this game, but I'm pretty sure you put your weapons away. But this is your squad. They don't look particularly special for GIs, but I do think that they're one of the higher value squads when it comes to premium squads for America. Obviously, number 1 is your paratrooper squad, but I think this is a very competitive number 2. Given all the customization that you can put on them, and all of their versatility. And they are BR2, which is nice. So you'll still be able to use them with all of your other low BR equipment. They're definitely one that I would consider looking at. We'll look at the Achilles after this, I guess. So the Achilles, I'm really not very excited for. I think the Firefly is probably a better vehicle, since they effectively have the same, not effectively, they do quite literally have the same gun, and the Firefly is not open-topped. And, let's see, max speed of 38, max speed of 41, so this is marginally quicker. 50 rounds versus 80. This one gets machine guns and smoke. This one gets a machine gun and no smoke. Worse armor too. 51, 25, 25, 12 versus 51, 38, 38, 12. 76 on the front of the turret. 51, 51, 50. 57, 25, 25, 25. Does have a teensy bit more horsepower though. And it does look cool. But it is not the most exciting half of this bundle to me, but let's take a look at it anyway. I do like that they come with berets. We'll have to take a look at them in a minute. So, let's see, we can put our commander's head out the roof. The turret rotation is pretty awful, but that's not really surprising. We have our 50 cal. Pretty good gun sight, but this is pretty standard for British armor. Interestingly enough, we have APDS, which that alone gives a lot of potential to this tank. I want to go out to the Tiger II, which should be over there on the left, and I want to see how it does against that. I think it should be straight out there. Alright. So let's see, can we go through the Tiger 2H turret? We can. So, we do have a BR4 vehicle that should be able to punch through the Tiger 2H's turret. So this might have a little bit more value for American players than I initially gave it credit. I wasn't expecting it to actually get the APDS round. Yeah, I'm not surprised. The APDS really shouldn't do very well with the angled bits. I want to see if I can catch the machine gun there. It looks like you might actually be able to go through the machine gun port. Yeah, that's going through the machine gun port, but it's not doing much. I'm not sure if you'll catch the legs of the guy behind the radio operator. But you can go through both sides of the turret. The only issue with APDS is that you're going to have to specifically hit individual crew members, and I'm not sure how much spalling it's actually going to do into the other ones. So, let's see how the normal AP shot does. It shouldn't go through the turret, but it might. Yeah, it looks like we can't go through there. And let's check the lower plate. Nope. Although, we probably can pin the turret on this one, if I can hit it from here. Yep, there we go. Oh, and I want to get out and look at the squad. So, looks like sweaters and berets. And they do come with 1911s, which is nice. To be honest, I'd probably take the 1911s and give them to a squad that's actually going to use them. If these guys need pistols, you can give them, like, Colt New Services or something. Colt New Services are actually really good, but I'd rather have 1911s on assault troops, personally. Now, what I want to do is compare this to the Firefly. The Firefly up until now did not have a penetrator round. It just had the normal solid shot AP and like HE. I want to see if they've added the APDS to this squad, because if they have, then the Firefly stonks are through the roof. And they have. It does have APDS. So now the Firefly is going to be absolutely disgusting. So everything that you saw before is going to be true of this tank, except I think this is just a better tank. If BR4 didn't matchmake with BR5, I think the Achilles would have much more value. But now that the Firefly gets access to APDS, it seriously is an option to look at the next time that there's a sale. I wouldn't recommend just going out and picking up a full price premium, given how expensive they can be in Enlisted. Let me get back to the same straight on shot that we had before. And let me not aim like an absolute ape. Yeah, so it'll blow right through. You're still gonna have to be accurate with your shots. You can still go through the turret there, and actually, or not the turret, the coax. And we actually took out the engine there with that shot, so that actually might be a more valuable shot than I initially gave it credit. Although, shooting through the lower plate, you should be able to get the transmission, and I'm not sure if you can also get the engine. If the APDS isn't eaten by the transmission, you might be able to get both. But I think your best first shot is going to be right here to take out the gunner. You might even want to do both sides of the turret to take out the whole turret crew, and then pop the transmission, or if he's sitting still, pop one right through that machine gun port. I do really appreciate that they put the APDS round on both the Firefly and the Achilles. I think it would have felt really bad if they only put it on the Achilles, and it would have felt like they were trying to power creep an older premium and sell a new one. But I actually think this is a wonderful addition. Yeah, that looks really good. My recommendation is definitely the Firefly over the Achilles, but in the future, if matchmaking changes and BR4 can matchmake separately from BR5, like let's say we get 3-4 matchmaking, then I think the Achilles will become much more valuable. Although at the same time, strictly speaking of BR4 German vehicles, you can deal with all of the BR4 German vehicles without resorting to an Achilles gun. So, that is ultimately up to you. Now, we should also take a look at the Airstats M10. This is a very cool vehicle. It is a Panther from the Battle of the Bulge that was designed to look like an American vehicle to sneak through American lines. And let's take a look. So, I want to say it's a Panther A, but I'm not 100. No, it's slightly worse than a Panther A. I didn't think we had a Panther D in game, but I'm curious if it's actually a Panther D. Regardless, the armor is very slightly different. So we're 80, 50, 40, 26 versus 80, 40, 40, 16. This one's 80, 50, 40, 18. So, as I said, it's a little bit different than both of those. Turrets 110, 45, 45, 17. 100, 45, 45, 16. 110, 45, 45, 15. So, a little bit different than both of them. 600 horsepower at 2500 versus 510 and 510, but both of these are unupgraded. And we're looking at a max speed of 45.84 versus 45.84 and 45.84. So, let's take a look at the vehicle itself. As you can see, it's designed to look like an American tank. Even have a nice little cover that they can pop on over the machine gun there. I think it's a really cool vehicle. And I'm fairly certain that they're no longer selling the training division Panther, which I have, and I know that they're not selling the Yacht Panther anymore. So right now, this is kind of your main high BR tank that you can pick up. The Dickermax is a tank destroyer, and the Panzerwerfer is kind of an anti-infantry rocket artillery fire support vehicle. So if you wanted a proper high BR tank, right now this is your option. And it's probably going to be a pretty good option at that. It's certainly one of the most unique looking vehicles in the game, and I rather like that about it. So, it should basically perform like your standard Panther. Admittedly, the stats are very slightly different than all of the other Panthers, but that's not a crazy change. So we have APC, BC, HE, and our little 7.92 machine gun. It should basically perform the same as any other Panther. So you're going to have to pick some of your shots against some of the vehicles, but against most of what you see coming out of America and Russia, you should more or less be able to just shoot at them and aim for whatever you care about the most, whether it's the ammo or the turret crew. I usually go for turret crew first, because it's usually not a guarantee that ammo will actually cook off. There are some exceptions, like our good friend Mr. Jumbo. I don't think that's a Jumbo, though. I think that's, not the last one on the tech tree. The other one. Anyway, there's a few boxy Shermans, but I don't think this one's a jumbo. We shouldn't be able to go through the hull like that. Let's see. Go straight through the front of the hull on that one. That's the top tier Sherman over there. And this one right here, this should be the jumbo. I'm fairly certain that even straight on we shouldn't be able to go through the front of the hull. But you know what you can do? You can go through the gun port. Which has been a pretty reliable way of killing them, at least for me. It's usually the only area you can really go through. So you can see we don't really get decent highlights anywhere else. You can break the transmission as well, just to immobilize them. But yeah, it's a cool vehicle. If you've played any of the Panthers before, you know exactly what to expect from this. This is a Panther. There's really nothing special about it other than the way it looks. And admittedly, it does look cool. Mobility-wise, gun-wise, it's basically just a Panther. And as far as the crew is concerned, they come with C96 Mausers, which I would probably give to a better squad that's actually going to use their pistols. And these guys pretty much look how you would expect them to going into the bulge. They've got kind of warmer looking jackets on, but they don't exactly have the finest gear in the Reich. It is the final days. To be honest, they don't look half bad though. That is a good looking tank right there. I do believe that that's just about it. I don't think Japan is getting any new premiums. At least, nothing that I've seen yet. I don't think Russia's getting any new premiums. Let's see, is there anything in the shop? Not really. Oh, and there's your pricing, by the way. It's going to be $24.99 for the LVT, and $39 for the Achilles, and $39 for the air stats. I think they said there was new customization for the British in the Ardennes. These guys aren't actually British, but hopefully they'll count for our purposes. Guess not. Wait, there we go. Battle of the Bulge. I don't know exactly what they had before, so I'm kind of just scrolling through to take a look. I actually do really like this this jacket, but that's one that they've already had. I think the sweaters are new. See, if I was making a squad, I think I'd make them look like that. It's one I've been wanting to make for a while. I think these jackets look awesome, and actually, I think I prefer that one. That looks really good, especially on a sniper squad. Look like an absolute commando unit. I like that. Let's see. Final thing I want to look at I don't think that they've added any new battles. Ba-dum. They did update this menu though. This used to look different. I'm just scanning through to see if there's anything that stands out to me. I think they mentioned some new directions to come from in Hurtgen Forest, but I don't really think we've gotten any new maps. And I was really hoping with this update they'd announce something new for either Japan or Russia, or Japan and Russia. This seems like it's turning out to be a pretty small update, which is mildly unfortunate. Oh, you know what? There's one last thing that we can do. And actually, I think, yeah, we'll do it as America. It's fine. Let's go in the practice tool. I want to check out the tail gunners. Alright, so I actually don't know how to switch seats on default controls. Let's see. Is there just a normal switch seat button? So normally I do use these, but boom. Awesome. This does feel a little bit awkward, and I'm not entirely sure why. Let's see. See, it feels fine when we're flying in level flight. I think there's a little bit of delay because this is a turret and it can't rotate as fast as my mouse. I think it feels slightly off when you're in a turn though. So I think it naturally wants to, like, climb, depending on the orientation of the turn, but it's not awful. Be curious how it is in some of the other planes. And, you know, you gotta remember that most of your controls are inverted when you're looking behind you. Like, left is right and right is left. Luckily, I can't shoot my own tail off. That would be kind of funny though, wouldn't it? I feel like that's a shot I should be able to take right there, but I guess because of the elevator, it doesn't want me to. So there are still going to be some decent blind spots. It's not terrible to fly the plane like this though, so you can definitely offset the guy behind you just enough that you can shoot at him. So we'll see how good it is in practice at killing other planes. Seems like we only get the one belt though, which is a little bit unfortunate. And I'm pretty sure I can't switch seats because my weapon and my pilot are both set to 1, so it won't actually let me. So that's something to be aware of as well. Just make sure your controls are bound in such a way that you can actually switch between the seats. And not have it conflict with you deciding which weapon you want or anything like that. So all in all, looks to be a decent update. Certainly it's not the most exciting update in the world. I'm hoping that they announce something else between now and release, but given that this is in testing already, I suspect this is what we're getting, and it's probably going to go live with this. I imagine today's Wednesday, the test server is going to be down by midday tomorrow. We could see the update as soon as, say, Friday, but I would expect the update to be early next week. So with that, get out there, kick ass, take names, and win your games.